проведения специальной военной операции. Ее цель – защита людей, которые на протяжении 8 лет подвергаются издевательствам, геноциду со стороны киевского режима. И для этого мы будем стремиться к демилитаризации и денацификации Украины, а также преданию суду тех, кто совершил многочисленные кровавые преступления против мирных жителей, в том числе и граждан Российской Федерации.
Russia has built up tens of thousands of troops along the Ukrainian border, an act of aggression that could spiral into the largest military conflict on European soil in decades. The Kremlin appears to be making all the preparations for war, moving military equipment, medical units, even blood, to the front lines. President Joe Biden said this week that Russia had amassed some 150,000 troops near Ukraine. Against this backdrop, diplomatic talks between Russia and the United States and its allies have not yet yielded any solutions. On February 15, Russia had said it planned to partially pull back troops, a possible signal that Russian President Vladimir Putin may be willing to de-escalate. But the situation hasn't improved in the subsequent days. The US alleged Putin has in fact added more troops since that pronouncement, and on Friday US President Joe Biden told reporters that he's convinced that Russia had decided to invade Ukraine in the coming days or weeks. "We believe that they will target Ukraine's capital Kiev," Biden said. And the larger issues driving this standoff remain unresolved. The conflict is about the future of Ukraine. But Ukraine is also a larger stage for Russia to try to reassert its influence in Europe and the world, and for Putin to cement his legacy. These are no small things for Putin, and he may decide that the only way to achieve them is to launch another incursion into Ukraine, an act that, at its most aggressive, could lead to tens of thousands of civilian deaths, a European refugee crisis, and a response from Western allies that includes tough sanctions affecting the global economy. The US and Russia have drawn firm red lines that help explain what's at stake. Russia presented the US with a list of demands, some of which were non-starters for the United States and its allies in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. Putin demanded that NATO stop its eastward expansion and deny membership to Ukraine, and that NATO roll back troop deployment in countries that had joined after 1997, which would turn back the clock decades on Europe's security and geopolitical alignment. These ultimatums are a Russian attempt not only to secure interest in Ukraine but essentially relitigate the security architecture in Europe, said Michael Kaufman, research director in the Russia Studies program at CNA, a research and analysis organization in Arlington, Virginia. As expected, the US and NATO rejected those demands. Both the US and Russia know Ukraine is not going to become a NATO member anytime soon. Some preeminent American foreign policy thinkers argued at the end of the Cold War that NATO never should have moved close to Russia's borders in the first place. But NATO's open-door policy says sovereign countries can choose their own security alliances. Giving in to Putin's demands would hand the Kremlin veto power over NATO's decision-making, and through it, the continent's security. Now the world is watching and waiting to see what Putin will do next. An invasion isn't a foregone conclusion. Moscow continues to deny that it has any plans to invade, even as it warns of a military technical response to stagnating negotiations. But war, if it happened, could be devastating to Ukraine, with unpredictable fallout for the rest of Europe and the West. Which is why, imminent or not, the world is on edge.